Yes. So I just want to speak briefly this afternoon about the events of 1898, November 1898, that we are here to commemorate. For those of you who have just heard of the Wilmington Race Riot of 1898, let me lay out some pertinent information for you. There's a saying that if you fail to remember your history, you will be doomed to repeat it. We need to set a foundation for what happened in 1898 and what's currently happening in the city of Wilmington now. In the year 1898, just give you a little history. The port city of Wilmington was a boom town for black businesses and professionals. After Reconstruction, blacks owned restaurants, barbershops, tailor shops, and other profitable ventures around the city. Blacks were firemen and constables, what we call police today. They pretty much lived a good middle-class existence here for quite a while. Things were moving progressively along until the election of 1896, when white Democrats lost control of state politics. They lost control of the General Assembly. There were a group of populists, white populists and African-American members of the then Republican Party, who were called the Fusionist Movement, who won political advantage in the state. The Democrats vowed to avenge their defeat to the Fusionists in the election of 1898. One leader of the Democratic Party, Daniel Schnick, warned that the election of 1898 would be the meanest, vilest, dirtiest campaign since 1876, which was the election that ended the period of Reconstruction in the South. During the campaign of 1898, the Democrats stoked the fears of white citizenry through the assertions of black domination in the political arena. They also spread the lie of black men victimizing white women on a mass scale. Prior to the election, a white-owned newspaper in Wilmington, I'm sure it's still in existence today. It's called the Star News, correct? Yeah. We got to call it out. We got to call it like we see it and call truth to power. Published a controversial speech given by a Georgia woman. In her speech, she supported the lynching of black men who, for what she termed as inappropriate relations with white women. Alfred Manley, a black newspaper publisher in Wilmington, wrote a rebuttal that white males were just as guilty of having inappropriate relations with black women. Now let me stop there. If you look across this room, we can see evidence of both things happening here, can't we? So we're gonna keep it real here today. We're gonna keep it real here today. So that's part of our heritage. All of us are connected, whether we want to say so or not. All right. The heated exchanges between the two papers increased racial tensions in the city. Alfred Moore Waddell, a former Confederate officer and U.S. Congressman, called for the removal of the Fusionists, then in power in Wilmington. He suggested in a fiery speech that whites should choke the Capefield River with black carcasses, not carcasses, but let's be clear, black carcasses. Black voters turned out in large numbers for the election of 1898. The Fusionist white mayor and biracial city council was elected. 2 days later after the election, white supremacists led by Waddell overturned the legally elected government of Wilmington, thus pulling off the only coup d'etat of an elected government in the history of the United States. More than 2,000 white men participated in an attack on the black newspaper, the Daily Record, and burned it to the ground. They ran community leaders and elected officials out of the city and killed black citizens in widespread attacks. Not just one incident, but widespread attacks across this city in a number of days, especially destroying the Brooklyn neighborhood, or what we know now as the North Side community. After the riots, more than 2,100 blacks left the city permanently, having to abandon their businesses and properties, resulting in the formerly black majority city becoming a white majority city. The actions taken in 1898 led to the institution of Jim Crow laws across the South. It changed the face of the nation for the next 70 to 80 years. Even today, brothers and sisters, the spirit of Jim Crow lives in modern-day North Carolina. The white supremacists of the Democratic Party of 1898 has morphed into the North Carolina Grand Old Party of today. They use voter suppression schemes like voter ID, cutting early voting days, and trying to make it harder for people of color, the elderly, and our youth to cast their ballots and exercise their most fundamental right as citizens of this state and nation, the right to vote. They have made a mockery of the electoral gains African Americans have made by using a redistricting scheme that has packed and stacked black legislators into a majority minority districts, ensuring a permanent minority. They have continued to cut funding for education, refused to expand Medicaid to cover over 500,000 citizens of the state who badly need access to affordable care and life-saving services. They continue to propose regressive tax policies that have the effect of what I call Robin Hood in reverse. They take from the poor and the most vulnerable and give tax breaks to the rich and the well-to-do in our state. We are living in a modern-day America where there continues to be unequal justice in our courts. Police brutality against people of color are still being perpetrated in our communities. We give our political loyalty 96% of the time to one party while not having a presence in the other to challenge for real change and recognition of the critical issues that face African Americans from either side. Say it again. We need to learn the political game so we can start winning. We are not players because we do not understand the rules. This is unacceptable in 2017. It's time to wake up. Time is truly running out. All these things are sad and egregious, and we still feel the pain in the African American community. But I must look at the conditions of our people in 2017 Wilmington from a critical analysis. What are we doing as members of the community to support one another? Are you supporting opportunities for black businesses to flourish in our city? Are we actively participating in the public policy debates in our city that shapes and structure our lives on a day-to-day basis? See, it's not just about who the president is. It's about who your city council is. It's about who your school board is. It's about who sets policy for you in Raleigh. That's what it's about. So we have to be inspired and enthused to go out every election cycle. Every election cycle. School board is the most critical thing because who is setting the policy that's going to educate your children for their future down the road? See, I know the conditions in Wilmington. Clearly, somebody's asleep at the wheel. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. We must exercise the ghost of 1898 and come together to rebuild our communities in a way that we can benefit our children's future and ensure that future generations can move progressively forward. It's time to take our communities back and to rise as a phoenix from the ashes, so to speak, from the ashes of despair and the ashes of hopelessness, to a united people who knows the power that emanates inside of them. Yes. We have the spirit of our ancestors. I talked about my ancestors in Wilmington and in this mighty church, we all have the spirit of our ancestors encapsulated, built up in us. Only thing we have to do is use the strength, because see, they didn't have what we had. But they accomplished a whole lot more than we're accomplishing today. With all the advantages that we have cell phones, laptops, we're connected worldwide, and we can't get 5 people to a precinct meeting to talk about how we're gonna move public policy to help our children. Can't do it. Something's wrong. That's right. It's time to reclaim our power. As Brother Marcus Garvey so eloquently said, "Up, you mighty nation. You can accomplish what you will." I know that we can do it, Wilmington. I'm a living example of what one town can send to the world and what can come back. So all of us have the ability to do our part. But we got to do it. The flashpoint for the consolidation of white supremacy and Jim Crow disenfranchisement started here, and it's only fitting that we put it to rest here. The nation is watching our tiny little city. Let's show them what true reformation, what true power looks like. Are you willing to blaze a new path to the uplifting and liberation of your people? Say yes if you are. Yes. Are you willing to stand up and fight for your children's future? Say yes if you are. Yes. You are the descendants of those martyrs whose blood was shed in the streets of this city. You have an obligation to your ancestors to fight with all your heart and soul to bring about change to the city that they loved and died for. Wilmington, we can do this. We must do this. I'm committed to the struggle. Join me in the work. Thank you for listening. May the Creator keep and bless you. Power and peace to the people. Amen.